Good afternoon, everybody's, and welcome to let's see, we are on Wednesday, the April 12th session of the OBX Wave Report. I am Robert Scribbler, your reporter on all things waves, weather, climate, the beaches, climate action, saving our coastlines, and just getting down to the beach and having fun surfing. So I'm going to start this report with a preamble. We're going to do two preambles. One celebrating my 35th surf session so far this year. Got out over into the waves at Jeanette's Pier. According to the wave monitors, waves in the range of 3 to 4 feet. Hmm, okay, 3 to 4 feet. I thought it was maybe 2 to 3, 2 to 4, but wave monitors say 3 to 4 feet, so we'll stick with them. Um, Good, clean waves today, easy to ride, lots of surfers in the water, lots of fun was had by all. Unfortunately, my GoPro kind of puttered out before I got some great rides, but I still got some good shots of some good rides before the GoPro puttered out that I wanted to share with you from surf session number 35. I have a goal of 150 for this year. We're not going to be snobs. We're for the waves. We're just going to get out there and surf regardless. I've got a beautiful board for it. It's the Lost Rocket Redux. It's a nice high volume, easy to turn, super maneuverable, crazy fast, nice paddle power quad. Loving it, learning it, getting better at it. It's a great board. Cheers to the guys that lost. Got some great rides with the Lost Rocket Redux today. And so here's one of them. And then this other one where I just was so close. I was shooting down the line, trying to tuck into the pocket here. Wave wasn't quite big enough for me to get good tube, and then it kind of broke out on me all at once, this section, so I couldn't quite get into the pocket for a tube. It looked like it was going to line up, but did not quite. But I love this picture with the axe coming down at my shoulder and the spray and the rays of sunlight streaming down. This one did not take me out. Lost Rocket Redux is very, very solid. So I took the beading on the side and on the head cut out and did a few pumps through the whitewater to try and get back to the shoulder. So yeah, much stability on that Lost Rocket Redux and feeling good and confident in the wave rides today. All right, so for today, one of the things that we are going to talk about in our preamble is hydrogen trucks for big long haul shipping versus electric trucks for big long haul shipping. And when I talk about trucks, I'm talking about like the big rigs, these 18-wheeler semis, big old massive burly things. And the world is moving very rapidly right now toward electrification of transportation. And I do want to start this talk about hydrogen versus electric in trucking as by providing you guys some context. And there's been a lot of talk about hydrogen just generally for vehicles in the light vehicle segment. So far, EVs have won, and they have won by a long shot, orders of magnitude greater deployment of electric vehicles versus hydrogen vehicles. The global market for hydrogen vehicles being in like the tens of thousands, and whereas now the global market for electric vehicles in the million, multiple million range. So EVs are charging forward. Hydrogen light vehicles are lagging. So as we enter this debate, I just did want to provide some context. Electric is winning versus hydrogen big time in the light vehicle market. What about hydrogen in the heavy vehicle market? Now, there's some other considerations for heavy vehicles. Heavy vehicles require a lot more energy to run, and so some of the thinking is that because hydrogen fuel cells have more energy density than batteries, that hydrogen might win. And this energy density argument is one that I keep hearing. It's one that I heard with light vehicles. So I'm not sure if the energy density mark argument is the main decider here, but that is one of the arguments. Nonetheless, what is starting to happen with the global trucking industry is similar to what happened, I'd say about 10 years ago with the light vehicle industry, where we are seeing now the beginning of a mass deployment of electric trucks, while hydrogen is still kind of sitting in the wings. And I want to dive into this a bit more because I've been having debates and chats with a friend, and there still is an argument for hydrogen. So, according to some anecdotal evidence, some of the mechanics out there seem to think that the future for shipping is no longer diesel, but hydrogen. But is it? I mean, is it hydrogen? Is it electric? I don't really believe it's diesel. We can't really burn diesel. And from the analytical wonkish standpoint, I'm gonna just dive into what the reports are saying. And we're gonna start out with the Tesla starting to deliver electric semis to Pepsi. Last year, Tesla delivered well less than 100 semi trucks, but Tesla is starting to ramp up battery production at its Nevada plant and seems to have big plans for the long haul shipping market and is starting to deploy the semi really in larger numbers this year. We'll see how many they actually produce based on their battery ramp ups over in Nevada. But over the next 1 to 2 years, one thing is certain: Tesla's going to sell more electric long haul trucks. And once it does, we'll get a better idea of how trucks tend to work, on, like a high quality, a larger aspect for the shipping industry. But it is worth noting that globally right now, the shipping industry does have a lot of electric players that are a lot larger than Tesla and have been in the market, in the shipping market, the long haul shipping market, longer than Tesla. One of the big players is BYD, a China-based company that has delivered over 12,000 zero emission electric trucks across all classes globally. And this is, for all of its production, and has delivered over 100 electric trucks for the United States. So certainly as a competitor for Tesla, although the size of the BYD electric trucks are tend to be smaller, lighter trucks, although there certainly are those for heavy long haul shipping as well, provided by BYD. And another major player, um, hold on, let's see. Did I not get my, hmm, 1 second. Yep, here we go. I just didn't move my tab. And another major player for electric trucks is Volvo. And Volvo last year alone, globally, okay, yeah, no, and Volvo globally has sold more than 4,000 electric trucks. So another major player, certainly well ahead of Tesla in numbers as well. So Volvo and BYD, both major global players in electric trucks. It's worth noting that the electric truck market, as far as volume goes, is right now probably in about the same range as the hydrogen vehicle market for light vehicles. But I mean, electric trucks, of course, are much bigger, and the market is rather smaller as far as numbers go, right? So the proportion of the market already, um, dominated by electric trucks, the proportion of the global shipping market is already larger than the proportion of the global light vehicle market, um, taken up by hydrogen. Of course, that is not an apples to apples comparison, but it is still worth noting as we get a little bit more into this analysis, right? Um, Overall, electric heavy duty trucks, according to the Energy Information Agency, are expected to grow rapidly over the next decade. And these are these projections are showing 40% annual growth rates so far. So already the glide path for electric trucks is relatively steep. It's worth noting, though, that right now the global hydrogen truck market is practically non-existent. There are no large global sales of hydrogen trucks. And why is that? Mainly because there aren't really much in the way of hydrogen fuel stations, and there's not much in the way of infrastructure to support the hydrogen trucks. And in addition, the cost of hydrogen trucks, when you go from a energy to wheels standpoint, is 3 times that of the electric truck. So most of the analysis that I've seen is pointing toward battery electric trucks beating out hydrogen trucks based on the notion of cost alone, and then once again, learning curve. Electric vehicles have a steep learning curve. The technology is moving pretty rapidly. The energy density of the batteries is increasing, the charge speed of the batteries is increasing, and the size of the infrastructure able to charge the electric trucks is and this charging infrastructure is already on the ground, and the size of that infrastructure is also growing rapidly. All key elements to getting into the market that hydrogen vehicles don't presently have. And then in addition to the competing against the steep learning curve, hydrogen also has the cost problem to overcome, the total cost of a hydrogen truck being about 3 times that of an electric truck. So most of the expert analysis that I've found tends to provide a stronger rationale for electric trucks beating out hydrogen trucks over the next decade. If this happens, it would be a repeat of what happened with light vehicles in the electric versus hydrogen competition. We shall see. Certainly, this is not a done deal, but it does look like the barriers to entry are much higher for hydrogen than they are for electric. And a lot of the return on investment and actual production and marketable product is coming from the electric side at present. So we do have a leader right now, and the leader is electric. And I just want to follow up with this final article by Auto Evolution. Here is why battery electric semis, not hydrogen, will dominate zero emissions freight. And I just like to point this article out to you guys. I'm not going to, read it, but this one by Oren Mark. I encourage you to take a look at all of these articles. If you disagree with me and you've got evidence that hydrogen is going to beat electric, if you've got some kind of insider industry knowledge, please let me know in the comments. You know, and we'll, if these are salient points that seem to overcome what appears to me, based on this initial market analysis, appears to be a major advantage for electric trucks, then I'll incorporate it in my clean energy analysis as well. But for right now, from where I'm sitting, it does look like electric trucks are probably going to beat out hydrogen over the next decade. We shall see. I could be wrong. Maybe we'll be wrong. But in any case, um, interesting competition going on between hydrogen and electric right now. And right now, electric seems to be charging forward. Okay, so let's get into the OBX wave report, into our main body. We had a long preamble today, not much preamble yesterday, so balancing out, it's a balancing act. All right, so getting down into some of our weather analysis, we have a very broad high pressure system out here just off the Outer Banks. We got some westerly winds, we got a nice swell, some good 2 to 5 foot waves breaking across the banks. Very warm temperatures in the range of middle to upper 60s to 80 degrees. I got an 80-degree indicator at Rodanth for today, which is just pretty nuts. So very warm summer-like conditions across the Outer Banks today. Um, to the south of us in the Gulf of Mexico, we've got this little swirl here, and that is kind of an interesting feature to me. I'm going to go ahead and just advance this model a little bit. We usually don't do wind forecast models, but so this low pressure system is forecast to head on in from the Gulf of Mexico to Louisiana. I am curious about cloud and water vapor here. Yeah, so this low pressure system forming as an aspect of a stalled frontal boundary that developed a nor'easter for us this weekend. As it dredged into those warmer than normal waters of the Gulf of Mexico, um, we obviously got a little swirl and some lift, and so a low pressure system there. Interesting feature, nothing too crazy or radical to speak of, but nonetheless, Louisiana right now getting some heavy precipitation with some storminess swirling in from the offshore. I may take a look at the National Hurricane Center to see if there's any kind of advisory on this, but probably not. In any case, here on the Outer Banks, we've got very calm conditions, no major weather to speak of. But what I do want to note is this broad band. Oops, sorry, we ended up having to zoom out. I don't know why. Okay, this broad band of fire danger, major fire danger, ranging from the southwest in New Mexico across a broad swath of the central U.S., Oklahoma, Colorado, Kansas, Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Michigan, and then into Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, Maryland, of all places. So large area of fire danger across the US today. What's going on? It is much warmer than normal over these regions, and it is windy over these regions, and it is dry. All of these features enhance fire danger. And I'm just going to have to say this, climate change sucks. I mean, you get these like flash dry spells, flash heat spells, add a little wind, and the fire danger really ramps up. It's one of the issues with climate change. As the globe heats up, you tend to get more wildfire risk. And we've seen that around the globe. And this oddness here in the Northeast with um, like fire danger in April in a sudden event like this is not normal. So I'm just going to put my little pin in this and say, as my own opinion, not normal. Wait for analysis from the climate and weather experts, please. But just here as an indicator, I've never really heard of severe fire weather issues, potential severe fire weather issues for the Northeast during this time of year. So let's hope that there is no major fire outbreaks in any of these regions, but nonetheless, large areas under the alert for potential fire at this time. Getting down to the geocolor composite, you see those clear skies over much of the central and eastern US, the exception being the stalled frontal boundary down here at the Gulf, taking on an interesting little swirl here. I'm just fascinated by this. I don't know. I think I'm going to take a look at the National Hurricane Center. I'm not sure if that's taking on any tropical characteristics, but it's interesting. But yeah, and over these fire danger areas, you can see that clear, dry kind of feature. You know what? Let's go back to water vapor and look at how dry it is. Let's see, total precipitable water, um, relative humidity. So yeah, in some of these regions, we got very low relative humidity. 27%, that's pretty low. 28, not too crazy low. But then out west here, ooh, dog, getting down to 10, 8, 10%, that's bone dry. Still very dry for this time of year in many of these regions. All right, so let's get back to the enhanced cloud tops, and you can see those thunderstorms firing along the stalled front with that swirl coming in over Louisiana, bringing in those showers. We also got more storms firing over the Rockies. These are probably mostly rain and snow type showers, and then some more precipitation, like an impulse of precipitation heading in toward the Pacific Northwest. The tropics are starting to get engaged. We got these firing going off here in the intertropical convergence zone. The eastern Pacific is much warmer than normal, providing fuel for those thunderstorms. And of course, thunderstorms over the tropical convergence zones are fuel for cyclone development, but this time of year is not typical for cyclone development in the northern hemisphere. Okay, so let's get down to our local wave reports. Already gave you guys a little bit of an after action report for my surfing earlier today. And we're going to get on down to Jeanette's Pier and talk about the waves there. Right now, according to the wave monitors, waves in the range of 3 to 4 feet. I'm going to put a little minus sign over that. I don't think that they're quite that big, but I'm not going to argue with the official wave monitors. My opinion is more in the 2 to 3 foot range, but I don't have a yardstick. In any case, primary swell coming out of the east at 10 seconds. That is a 3 foot swell. Winds right now out of the west at 9 miles per hour. Very clean, very glassy waves out there right now. Air temperature 75 degrees Fahrenheit, very warm. Ocean water temperatures hanging in there at 53. Those west winds pushing off the Gulf Stream a little bit, locking in those colder water temperatures there. But with those warm air temperatures, it's easier to stay out in the water longer. Right now, weather conditions sunny and in the mid 70s. High today, likely in the mid 70s as well. And for a spot observation, we're going to go on up to East Abalone Street on the borderline between Kill Devil Hills and Nags Head. And up there, waves are apparently in the range of 2 to 3 feet. And then we're going to head on down the coastline past Oregon Inlet, past S turns to an observation here at Rodanth. I did want to pull Rodanth because Rodanth is a hot spot here today for the Outer Banks. Temperatures around 80, a high temperature around 80 today at Rodanth. That is warm. Okay. But waves right now at Rodanth also in the range of 3 to 4 feet. Primary swell coming in at 10 seconds. That is a 3 foot swell out of the east. We got winds 17 miles per hour, pretty stiff. Fresh breeze out of the southwest. That is an offshore flow. Ocean water temperatures also 53. That's cooling off a bit, likely with that west wind. Sunny conditions right now at Rodanth, high around 80. And then heading on south for a spot observation, Avon Pier right now seeing wave heights in the range of 3 to 4 feet as well. And then jetting on south past Avon to Buxton, we've got 4 to 5 foot waves with a primary swell also coming out of the east at 10 seconds. That is a 3.5 foot swell. Buxton, you are a wave magnet. Air temperature is cooler down there at Buxton at 66, probably getting more of that ocean influence. Winds out of the southwest at 16 miles per hour. That is an offshore flow, fresh offshore flow. Ocean water temperature is a little bit cooler with that west wind, 62 degrees Fahrenheit. Sunny at Buxton today, highs near 70. And last of all, for our wave observations, we're going to head on over to Billy Mitchell, where the wave heights are in the range of 2 to 3 feet. Now let's get into some climate analysis and long range weather analysis. And for the global climate picture right now, looking at global temperature departures, we have a global anomaly of 0.45 degrees Celsius above normal. This, of course, provided to you by the Global Forecast System Model, an open source model available to everyone. And the graphic here provided by Karsten Hallstein. Check him out. Fantastic climate analysis for you by Karsten. All right, so this map showing temperatures in the range of 0.45 degrees Celsius above normal. This is, of course, above the already warmer than normal 1981 through 2010 reference period. The Arctic is cooler than normal at 0.4 degrees Celsius below normal. Both the tropics and the Antarctic now are also above normal. Tropics are heating up as we trend more toward El Nino, and Antarctica has flipped again to warmer than normal, rather warmer than normal, with 0.775 degrees Celsius above normal readings. It's worth noting that the middle latitudes, particularly, well, looks like middle latitudes in the northern hemisphere are also rather warmer than normal. Southern hemisphere not lighting up quite as much. But you can also see those far above normal temperatures over a large swath of the United States, roughly tracking with the area of fire hazard. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and zoom in on that because it is actually pretty telling how those above normal temperatures have affected the fire weather. So you remember that swath of potential for wildfire, it roughly follows the swath of far above normal temperatures. And in many of these regions, you're seeing temperatures in the 80s for April, much above normal conditions. Looks like in the Celsius range about, let's get rid of this and then go over to our key here. Yeah, in the Celsius range, ranging from 8 to 14 degrees Celsius above normal, that's roughly 12 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit above normal, maybe more in some locations, much warmer than normal temperatures in this region. We've got, fire weather conditions, which are completely abnormal, particularly for parts of the U.S. Northeast. But I mean, when you see those above normal temperatures coinciding with fire hazard, that looks like a climate crisis fingerprint to me. Of course, this is an initial observation, so please, please, please listen to your experts. I am not the expert. I am just observing and talking about what is happening now. Okay, let's look at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook, which will give us some idea where the warmth will be, and 6 to 10 day precipitation outlook giving us some idea where the storminess will be. And for most of the eastern and southern U.S., above normal conditions, cooler than normal conditions for the U.S. Northwest. And precipitation above normal for large portions of the U.S. West Coast, parts of the central northern tier and western northern tier, and then running in through the central U.S. and then down to the Gulf Coast with below normal precipitation expected for parts of the Great Lakes and Ohio River Valley region. Looking at the quantitative prediction forecast, we get a better idea where the storms are likely to form. And it looks like along the Gulf Coast, possibly up near the northwestern Great Lakes and in the Pacific Northwest. Worth noting that the Southwest is going to be much drier than normal, and most of the rest of the U.S. looks basically kind of normal-ish. Okay, looking at the convective outlook for the next 3 days, thunderstorms near the Gulf Coast and over parts of the mountain region tomorrow, but nothing too crazy. Today, but nothing too crazy. Then tomorrow, some heightened thunderstorm risk for parts of the southeast and just east of the Rockies. And then as we get into day 3, we start to get into some heightened risk of severe weather for parts of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. So if you're out there, let's see, Thursday, Friday. On Friday, please pay attention to your local emergency weather statements and your local weather forecasters, and please do what you can to prevent harm to yourselves and for those that you love and care about. Should severe weather threaten, severe weather in this case being in the form of severe thunderstorms, hail, strong straight line winds, possible tornadoes. All right, getting into the global forecast system model forecast. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this because I have to do the refresh. Right now, we've got that area of disturbed weather over the Gulf, which I find so fascinating. I know, I'm a nerd. I'm a weather nerd. All right, and we're going to go ahead and advance this model, watch this thing march into Louisiana as a warm front begins to push through the U.S. Southeast. And by Saturday, here in the Outer Banks, we are expecting stormy conditions in association with that warm front. Warm and storm, so warm, stormy conditions for the Outer Banks on Saturday. And then getting into Sunday, the warm front moves off to the north and east as looks like another big front starts to sweep on through the central U.S. Look at this big blob of severe weather off of Louisiana out there in the Gulf. Looking kind of gnarly there for southeastern Louisiana. Might be pretty stormy. And of course, we might get some thunderstorms sweeping in across the central US. And then the cold front sweeps through the Outer Banks on Monday, likely bringing colder conditions as high pressure settles in on Tuesday and then heads on offshore. And then we get the warm. And then we get the warmth behind the high pressure system on Thursday. And then as we start to head in toward the weekend, on Friday, this is of course not this week, but next week, we start to see a potential for a nor'easter with a coastal low starting to develop offshore on Friday. This is in the way out machine. Doesn't look actually too bad. There was looked more nor'easterish in the last model run, but this one just kind of looks like a little coastal low develops and then heads offshore. All right, so that's about as far out as I'm willing to go. Let's get down to our wave forecast and nope, not that. Wave forecast, and let's make sure we're on now. Yep, let's get to now. All right, so our wave forecast for the next 5 days. For today, we see wave heights in the range of 3 to 4.5 feet in the near offshore environment. So a lot calmer than it was yesterday and the day before in the wake of our nor'easter. And then as we get into the day tomorrow, wave heights also continuing to fall down into the 2 to maybe 3 foot range in the near offshore environment. It's going to get a lot smaller. There might still be some good surf tomorrow morning, which is what I'm going to try. I'm going to get out there for a dawn patrol session before I jet on off to the north on the travel thing. And then on Friday, we start to get southerly wind. And so for the South Beaches, the waves look like they tamp up a bit, and we might get a nice wraparound swell for places like Buxton and Avon. Up here to the north, we still have that remnant swell coming in from the east, and that's expected to be pretty small as we get into the day on Friday. And then Saturday, those southerly winds will trend more southerly and southeasterly, and we'll tend to get more wraparound swell on Saturday, although I'm not sure if the wave heights are going to be huge, but um, I think better waves on Saturday. And do we get to Sunday? Yes, we do. All right. And then continuation of that southerly and southeasterly swell on Sunday with generally smaller wave conditions expected in the near offshore environment in the range of 2 to 3 feet. So no major great wave days, but nonetheless here in the Outer Banks, you can almost always find an area where the surf is rideable in the range of 1 to 2 feet and get out there and practice your surfing and have some fun. All right, so I did say that I was interested in this little thing in the Gulf of Mexico, so I do want to look at the National Hurricane Center just briefly. And nope, nope, nope. My curiosity has not been borne out in any kind of alert from the National Hurricane Center. Nonetheless, some squally conditions out there over the Gulf of Mexico. So if you're down there in the Gulf, please pay attention to those ocean advisories. All right, so I will be closing up the OBX wave report for today. We had a big long wave report with lots of preamble and lots of discussion. As I always do, I am going to end with this appeal to you. We were just talking with my friends. Another house fell into the ocean over there at Rodanth. And what's going to happen here on the coastlines is we're going to have more and more of those kinds of events if we don't do two things. We're going to have to defend our coastlines and do more than just sand replenishment. We're probably going to have to get into some coastal engineering to protect our coastlines. And we're going to have to talk more and more about what's important to us and how important our coastlines are to us and how we are going to protect them from rising sea levels and more intense storm events. Rising sea levels and more intense storm events are driven by fossil fuel burning, which is one of the reasons why I keep asking you guys to do everything you can to help speed the transition to clean energy. And this is not a blame thing. It's more of a shared responsibility thing. It's a more of just recognizing what we love and enjoy and not falling into cynicism or fatalism and inevitability because our choices do matter. It's about empowerment. And so I'm just asking you to empower us by helping speed the rapid deployment of clean energy. And right now, the rapid deployment of clean energy is enabled by wind, water, solar, and electric vehicles, and the batteries that help to rapidly deploy those electric vehicles, and also by the electrolyzers, which produce green hydrogen, which even if hydrogen doesn't win the race for trucking, hydrogen, green hydrogen can still be used for aviation, and it can still be used for big ships, and it can still be used for materials production like steel, and it can still be used for other kinds of materials production because hydrogen is very reactive, and you can combine it things like carbon, say for example, captured from the air to make synthetic materials. So hydrogen is certainly a part of the clean energy transition, regardless of whether or not EVs or hydrogen wins in the trucking sector. So bringing our earlier preamble discussion full circle. All right, so thanks for joining me for this session of the OBX Wave Report. If you get out there in the waves today, I hope you shred it. I hope you have some great rides. Thanks for joining me, guys. I